Hello, I'm MPX Toycat, and I've had a fair amount of concern recently about my hotbar in Minecraft, and for once it's not because of how disorganized it is, but instead people have been leaving a lot of questions asking, why do you have a mending flint and steel? What is the point of that, Toycat? I mean, you have this whole hotbar, and then you've got a mending flint and steel. And I know, I hear you loud and clear, I probably should explain this more often. It's a mending flint and steel just because I have easy access to mending books, but I don't have easy access to unbreaking books. So yes, I've made the deadly sin of having a mending flint and steel without also having unbreaking. Thank you for keeping me honest and for asking questions so I can finally do that. And also people have been asking like, okay, so you've got this wonderful hotbar Toycat with all these tools, neverite everything, and then this lovely flint and steel, but you seem to be missing something. I mean, there's a clear, thing missing from your tools right here. And okay, again, I have to address this right now. Yes, I am also missing a shears with mending on. This is another key mistake that I shouldn't be making, but yet I am. Here we go. Now I've got the full set of tools that you would expect from a world. But yeah, the more serious question then is like, okay, you're not Toycat, you're being very funny. You put mending on your tools, but why? Is it just for the YouTube video meme? But the actual answer is no. If you think about Minecraft strategically, as you probably should do because there's a lot of resource management in this game. I mean, not that I ever think about it that way, but yeah, outside of having fun. But if you're trying to think about how to save the most time and resources, you have to consider two separate resources that are being used when you do one of two strategies. If you need a lot of shears, which by the way are not just useful for sheep, they're also useful for tree green. I know the name, leaves. They're useful for leaves, or tree green as it's definitely called officially by most tree experts. But the interesting thing is like they're useful for breaking wool. They're useful for a lot of things, so you need shears for these sorts of things. Also, flint and steel, useful for lots of things too. You can light netherrack on fire. If you have a lot of netherrack to light, you're going to need a lot of flint and steels. And so the question can easily become, should you just waste a lot of iron on both these things, and a lot of flint in this case too? Not that flint is really so valuable. Should you waste some flint on these things? Or, alternatively, should you just have them with mending on? It's a really good question that the basic conclusion comes down to, what do you value more in your world? Iron, or do you value, iron plus flint in this case? Or do you value your, your experience more? Like, what do you value? And assuming that you have excess experience, like, let's say you have any amount of breeding, any amount of trading, any amount of anything where you can get experience on a somewhat regular basis, and you already have mending on everything else, and that's already maxed out, then at that point, I think it makes sense to put mending on these tools over having a bunch of different copies of them. And that's because, personally, I don't have an iron farm. I'm still protesting against them, partially, and the other part of it is like, Bedrock, you can never trust that a particular type of farm will work forever anyway. I'm just going to fly up into the sky to get these last bits of trees. Again, you can see how very close to finished my shaved forest is. Why shave a forest, some people ask. And my response is, why shave anything? There we go. Now we're making a big question that I didn't intend to. But yeah, you can I reach it from here? I can't. How sad. But the interesting thing you should be considering is like, oh yeah, is it worth which of those resources more valuable? And honestly, even just going to an iron farm takes about as much much time as you could argue it takes to get some experience going, if you're already getting experience in your day-to-day life, like I need to for lots of things I do. And allow me to take a skeleton horse that I just found in the shaved forest. Oh, I missed an entire tree, actually. After I shave this tree, allow me to point out what I mean by that. For a skeleton horse, this thing jumps so high. I like that a lot. I mean, it's kind of weird the way it does jump. I can't say I'm a big fan, but very cool jumps, right? So this is the Enchanted Valley that's in front of my cave house, and yes, I settled down in a cave 8.5 years ago today, and now I still live here. What are you gonna do about it? But over here I have a small-scale sheep farm, in addition to the bigger sheep farms across my world, and here is where I get some black wool if I need it temporarily, some white wool if I'm doing something. Small-scale projects, it's easy to just come in here, shear the sheep, get out. There's no real lag because there's not many sheep, but hypothetically, right, if I was in here and I really needed a bunch of black wool, more than I could get from just shearing the sheep with my mending shears, by the way, which are love the fact that these things aren't going to die. But let's say hypothetically you did use up a lot of like stuff like this, and now you want to get more wool going. Well, what you could do hypothetically is you could use some wheat. Again, purely hypothetically here, you could use that wheat and then you could breed the animals together, and you could get more of the same types of animals. Wow, that's not news to anyone. Did you wait? I want to give like really basic Minecraft tips in this video. Did you know? Give 2 wheat to 2 sheep and they'll breed. Did you know if you press your jump button, you will jump? Did you know you can break wood down into multiple planks? Isn't that crazy? But yeah, if you breed the animals together, then obviously you get a little bit of experience, and that experience can be used, funnily enough, to actually then mend up the tool that you're using to shear them. So sheep farms kind of are a natural symbiosis for a mending shears, in my opinion. Wow, look, now the shears have got more shearing ability back that we can use. Look, they're almost back at full, just from like 10 sheep breeding together or something like that, and that's pretty handy. And now, yeah, if you ever need too much wool, but you don't want to upscale your sheep farm forever, because, you know, even if like right now we had too many sheep, we had the perfect number of 4, all we have to do is then kill some of these sheep, hypothetically, just like this, and you know what we can do? We can switch out to the mending shears, and now we're also getting experience for that too. If you have any farms in your world that you don't have unlimited... What is that skeleton horse doing? If you don't have unlimited capacity in them, this is a really handy way to do that. And boom, now we've got myself some cooked mutton as well, which is going to deal with some food issues later. But yeah, let's just throw this back in the chest for now. And let's go back to the shaved forest. Because a lot of people who see this, you know, who don't think it's cool. And you know what? If you don't think this is cool, then I don't think you're cool. How do you feel about that, internet? But, you know, a lot of people see this and who don't immediately think that it's interesting, because personally I find a forest without the leaves to be such a interesting thing to just be able to go through. It also kind of signifies a part of my Minecraft world. I like it, but you might question, what was the point of all of this then? Like, why did you shear a particular section of the forest? I didn't shave the entire forest. I shaved it. I kind of made it into 2 biomes. The regular forest over there, boo, no one likes it, and then the way more interesting. Also, I guess I should chop down this tree right here, just because, like, it's mostly destroyed anyway. But, you know, like, there's basically, like, 2 sets of these trees. And you might question them, like, okay, if you don't like that, then what was the point of it all, Toycat? And the answer is to get leaves. One of the biggest benefits of shears, again, mostly in speedruns, but in the rest of the world too, is you can use these as a way to get a lot of leaves. If you need, hypothetically, a lot of those very quickly. And why would you need that very quickly? Well, I'm glad you asked. Imaginary voice inside my head that simulates the audience. You're not, I say this all the time, but talking to yourself, entirely bizarre to some people. Talking to yourself on YouTube, wow, that's a normal thing you're allowed to do right there. And yeah, here's me talking to myself. You ever consider that? You ever consider, if you weren't around to hear this, this would be me being a crazy person talking by myself. Consider this even more. If you make a YouTube video, you know, talking to yourself, and it gets literally 0 views. You know, that's something that happens on my channel. If I upload the videos unlisted, let's say, is that still crazy or is that not? Are you talking to yourself or are you talking to an imaginary audience? And is talking to an imaginary audience the same as talking to yourself? These are the questions we should consider, but we'll have to consider them after I tell you what I'm using all these leaves for. Because, I'll be honest, the reason seems questionable, and given how long it's been since waterlogging came out, it looks especially bizarre now. But allow me to show you. Because here is a lake in my Minecraft world, or it was a lake. Actually, it was just technically part of the ocean, but like, it made this very interesting looking lake because of how tiny the exit between this and the sea was. You can literally see how it was, what, like 7 blocks before? And so as a result of me having this very, very tiny lake, I figured, you know what would be interesting? You know what would be cool? Is if we covered the entire thing with leaves. And so I covered all of the sides of leaves. That was fun. I made this little central pillar in the middle. That was fun. And now we have this entire area underwater that, because of this conduit right here, this conduit that rests on a piece of scaffolding, by the way, which is entirely okay. But yeah, so I've got this entire area that I think is kind of nice and that I'm going to be fleshing out a little bit more because we've got a few blocks that you can still see behind there. We want to hide those away, and also we just want to make the area a little bit more textured, and eventually I want to fill this entire thing with leaves and have what used to be a lake but is now lake-filled leaves, and then we can remove those leaves to make a little maze for it. I think it will be interesting, even if it's a bizarre idea. I think sometimes in Minecraft you have to follow your bizarre ideas. Like, some of them are going to be bad ones that you question later, like, why did I do that? And some of the ideas you're going to follow are going to be the great ones that you look at and you go, yeah, this is something I'm genuinely proud of. As weird as it is to say, I think sometimes, you know, like, a lot of people put a lot of emphasis, especially on YouTube, on the successes that come. Where did you even spawn from? I guess it's very bizarre because, again, oceans have different spawn rules to the above ground, so you can have stuff like that happen, even though that makes no sense that just happened. Also, if I wanted to farm squids, this is a useful way to do that because I can be underwater infinitely and just. I guess I need those nautilus shells as well at some point, so we'll deal with and collect all that stuff. But for now, let's just place our leaves down and let's make the surface a little bit better. But yeah, I think one of the things that I've always been a vanguard of here on YouTube is trying to, you know, like explain things as much as you know, how they really are as much as I can. Rather than, even though it's fun to be like super impressive for a particular thing and like that makes your ego feel good if people go, wow, you did a thing I don't know if I could do, Toy Cat. And let's be honest, when it comes to building skill, that's not a thing people often say about my world. Pictures on screen now of questionable builds in my Minecraft world. But you know, like something that very early on I realized is that I don't like how fake many parts of you know, like I think like clickbait or something like that has a real value to it. Like enticing people into finding something that otherwise they wouldn't be looking for. You know, there can be some value to that. But like lying to people about what it is that they found once they get there, to me has always felt like the line that I draw. And maybe we could argue morality is all lines in the sand, but that's why I wanted to talk about, you know, because maybe whether you put mending on shears is all lines in the sand. Maybe it's all like fun theory, because I do like the theory behind these sorts of decisions more than anything else. I like that this tool right here is genuinely one I'm actually probably going to use, even if it's not, you know, like most people don't, the biggest indicator in this would be the decision time on whether you make it rather than any actual information. But anyway, I want to talk about, so I like real things, and therefore a lot of people have you know, questioned the last week, like, what do you think about that recent scandal with the big YouTuber who was, you know, caught cheating something speedrunning, right? And I wanted to talk about it not because I want to drag the guy. Like, I really don't. Like, even though I'm sure I have some business interest in being like, hey, you know, don't watch that person, watch this person instead. Every now and then someone's like, oh, you're like that guy, but for Bedrock. And it's like, well, no, but you can do whatever you want, I guess. And so, you know, like even though I probably have some interest in a grand attack, I want to instead offer advice for anyone who finds themselves in his position. Let's offer hypothetical advice to, let's say, hypothetically, a Minecraft speedrunner who was caught almost beyond reasonable doubt. Not quite, but technically speaking. Beyond reasonable doubt, not beyond all doubt. To have done something, something would have gone wrong. Let's not call it cheating. Let's call it some form of manipulation or mistake making, perhaps. But there's something really interesting that I guess like it's, if you're, you know, super young and you're new to YouTube, you might not know about. If you're young in general, you might not know about this, because my immediate instinct when someone calls me out for something I did that I assumed, you know, like when I'm a child and I'm like, oh yeah, no one's gonna catch me eating these cookies, and then someone's like, you know, did you eat the cookies, Andrew? I felt like there are fewer cookies than there was before. Is that your doing right there? And when someone says that, I'm like, nah. You know, like I'll deny. When they bring up evidence, I'm like, you know, because the interesting thing about human like conversation, I guess the interesting thing about like how we deal with all of these things is it's very subjective almost everywhere. Like, you're not, even if you literally see someone taking cookies out, it's like, no, those are the cookies I was allowed. Who said you were allowed them? Someone who's not here. It's like, you can't verify it. You know, like, you could verify it, but like most people don't put the full effort into that for everything. So they'll just be like, oh, sure, I guess I'll let you off. And, you know, you assume like, I'm a master liar and no one caught me cheating. But it's really just everyone caught you cheating, but no one wants to deal with the calling you out thing. But when you are a big YouTuber of some form, there is now a bigger target, let's say, on your back. But like, you know, there's a bigger number of people gunning for you and immediately coming. I'm using birch leaves by accident. No, they're oak leaves still. It looks like there's a difference, but I'm assuming it's because of the biome switch. Isn't that interesting that the same block looks different in different places in your world? I bet you find that interesting. But I want to give advice to a hypothetical YouTuber if they did hypothetically cheat in a world. And if anyone out there maybe can learn from this, maybe that's a thing. But I think, you know, the thing that we've seen is like weeks worth of denial and being like, oh yeah, this person thinks that they can, by using fancy words and being like, oh, someone's smart, agree, you know. Like, I've seen all sorts of different defenses that are tried. And the idea is like, oh yeah, if I just act like I'm innocent, and then everyone will believe I'm innocent. Because why would someone guilty act like they are innocent? And then you work out the complex ways you would act if you were innocent being caught, as opposed to if you're guilty being caught. And you know, like, it basically comes off as like lies to protect a lie. And that's why I wanted to give the little bit of advice today, that like it's always something I struggle with whenever, again, I guess I'm really glad that this Minecraft drama is like, for the first time, it's not something a Minecrafter did outside of Minecraft. It's for the first time like what a Minecraft person does inside Minecraft. Is cheating on speedruns okay? The answer is a resounding no, by the way. No one's gonna say, actually, yeah, it doesn't matter the accomplishments that you remove from other people. As long as you have a fun time and you feel good about yourself, that's what matters. It's like, no, you kind of devaluing a lot of people's accomplishments of that. But the thing is, if you are caught for something, even if you feel like, you know what, they shouldn't have caught me, or they only caught me because I'm a big YouTuber, I think the best thing to do, even though it's hard, and I'm not even gonna claim I can perfectly do this all the time, is just be like, yep, you got me. That be the truth that do be. And then people go, okay, yeah, so am I Steve? Oh no, I'm not Steve. But like it's the sort of thing people look at and they go, yeah, I guess you made one mistake and now you're trying to fix the mistake. Whereas when you double down for a lie, what you're saying is like, I'm an untrustworthy person. Admittedly, like the worst thing, this is I guess we'll come back to it, but like the worst thing is when you are telling the truth and people assume you're doubling down on a lie, and like, how do you protect against that? And that's why people always assume, like, I'll just get away with lying, and people who will assume I'm telling the truth will know that it's impossible for me to prove it because I'll seem untrustworthy, even though I'm clearly being trustworthy. And anyway, so the thing I say is, like, anyone out there, like, you know, if you, the first pro tip is, like, try to be honest. I actually recommend honesty, not for the same reason most people do, like, being honest is good. I think being honest is valuable, and, like, in a public sense, I value honesty because I think it's important to keep things better. But the bigger reason, to be honest, like I maybe you hate me for this justification. I think the far bigger reason, to be honest, is because lying takes a lot of work. Like, you have to remember that lie pretty much forever now. Whereas remembering the truth is not only going to be easier, but it's also going to be, you know, like it's going to be more honest in a way, you could argue. But you know, like telling the truth, very easy. All you have to do is like think back to the memory and then say it. Whereas when you're remembering a lie, you have to be like, okay, what did I tell this person? Now I have to say that, but again. Lying in a lot of cases is like so much more effort, and then you have to keep track of every lie you tell. You know, I used to be that kid who would just lie about dumb things, like, oh yeah, my dad has a pool you can play Xbox from. I didn't know my dad definitely doesn't have a pool, and you know what? I bet he's more of a place that... Actually, he has a Wii. You know, that was the most disappointing thing when I met him when I was like 18. He was like, oh, I have a Wii, but I don't pay for the Wii Online subscription because I'm not... I guess he must have had an Xbox actually, because he didn't pay for the Xbox subscription. So he sold it and then he got a Wii because he could watch Netflix on it for free. It's like, oh, you know, this is the most disappointing thing about you, father. You know, the not being there for my childhood, that's understandable. I don't want to be around children either. I feel you on that, but you know, selling your Xbox to buy a Wii because you can watch Netflix for free. I mean, at what point do you just admit you don't want a games console? But anyway, because by the way, to watch Netflix on an Xbox, you used to have an Xbox Live Gold subscription, and I have no idea how they got away with that, but people, that's a fun little part of history. But anyway, so the most interesting thing about lying is like you just have to keep up the lies forever, or you have to break them and be like, oh yeah, I lied. And that's why, ideally, keep lies to a minimum. Try to be the most trustworthy person you can. I generally speaking, like, YouTube complicates this a little bit because, like, if you ask me, hey Toy Cat, what's X, and I have to like hide certain personal details because they're other people's details, they're not for me to share, or like, you know, like something, get yourself doxxed or whatever. Like, there are certain details you can't share, and you have to complicate things a tiny bit. But being honest is just so much more fun than not being so. Like, people like to pretend like honesty is this real personality trait that like they do because they're just so darn, you know, they're like a paladin. They care about truth above all else. And although I do like truth above all else, like when people tell me a story, I immediately side with the other person in the story, which is like a bad personality trait. Because I'm like, you know what? You're telling a very biased version of the story. You're telling, you know, when I tell the story about my, pretty much anyone, the plumber, I mentioned this before, but like I try to think about stories from the perspective of the people who have maybe wronged me in some way. Because, you know, like they have an honest side of things. And so that I recommend that you be honest in a way, if not for the sake of honesty and the sake of it being one of the virtues in the world, but just for the sake of it's easy, and you would like, you know, being seen as honest is a good trait to have. You know, like there are lots of situations where you assume people will hate you for telling the truth, like, oh yeah, know what they really, and you know, like, although there are a few very specific situations I've learned, because if I've never told this story before, I had a phase a while back where I tried to be honest all of the time. I was like 100% honesty to every single person that ever asked. Like, that's just new policy. Let's see when it goes badly. And the only situations it went badly for were when you were meeting mostly with strangers, right? Like, oh yeah, I tell a stranger, oh, hey, do you have any change? And I'm like, oh, I do have change, but I would like to not give it to you because I need that change later. Like, that's not a popular answer. Like, oh yeah, I want to give you change, but I've seen you here many days in a row, and your story about missing the train doesn't seem like it's very likely on day 5, and so I am choosing to believe that the money that I give you will be used for nefarious, perhaps harming purposes, and I will not be partaking on this occasion, but I hope that you have a great day. You know, like, there's a level of over-honesty where, like, people don't see it as like, oh, that's nice, you're telling me the truth. But, like, you know, can you just give me the live version? The stereotypical one is like, you know, when your girlfriend says, do I look fat in this? You don't say yes. There's no world where yes is the correct answer to that one, you know? Even though it is the correct answer. Your girlfriend does look fat in that, and she deserves to know. But you know, that's not what she's looking for from you. She's looking for that tiny little self-ego boost. Because an interesting thing is, like, even when you tell someone to lie to you, if you tell someone to compliment you, the compliment still feels good when they give it to you. Because, you know, compliments aren't all about... Again, like, a lot of things people assume about honesty aren't. But at the same time, even though I'm giving a big argument for why honesty is bad by accident right here, I think when you're caught, and it's very obvious that you're caught, are these cooked cods? They're cooked cods. You know, I'm a cat, so look, get it? I'm an ocelot, so I like some cooked cods. But yeah, the thing I've learned throughout my life is like, you know, just tell the truth. So it can be uncomfortable in the moment, but it's better in the long run. And that's why I was very upset. You know, I mentioned this story on a stream recently. If you haven't been watching my streams, I stream about 2 to 3 times a week, playing some survival Minecraft. I enjoy it a lot. If you like the Let's Play, you might like those streams. But so I had a friend that just always flaked on me, but he'd never tell me he flaked. Like, I'd say the night before, you still good to go? He'd say, yeah. I'd say the time off, like, you know, the day off, you still good to go? He'd be like, yeah. And then I'd be like, so, where are you? I'm, you know, we're here right now, we're waiting for you. And then he wouldn't respond. He'd read the message, he wouldn't respond. And then I'd say, okay, we're going here, are you gonna be there? And he's like, oh yeah, I'll be there, I'm just on my way. Like, he does that all the time where he's like, I'm on my way. And then, like, just stops responding. Doesn't even say the honest, like, oh yeah, sorry, I can't come because of XYZ. He would just be like, oh yeah, sorry, you know, except he wouldn't say sorry. You know, saying sorry, saying I messed up and that's okay. That's something, like admitting you made a mistake and that you want to be better. That lets people know that, like, yeah, you are human. Humans make mistakes. But you know who lies? I mean, also humans, but like sociopathic humans. You know who lies and then tries to cover it up? People who are natural liars. And then they start to question, like, oh, all these other things I know about you, are they also lies? And in the case of my friend, who just doesn't show up, I think he's just really bad at confrontation. But also, maybe everything else is a lie. Maybe when he says that we're good friends, really he just means, oh yeah, sometimes I get lonely and I need someone to hang out with. You know, I don't know that for sure, because once you lie about certain things, once you show you're good at lying, once you show you can undetectably lie, it's a bad thing. You want people to believe that you're very, very, very bad at lying. You know, the whole idea of a poker tell, everyone loves that because they know the rest of the time that you're presumably telling the truth. That's why actually a certain high level of poker, like they make up pretend poker tells and like, you know, like it's a whole interesting thing, especially like outside of tournaments and stuff. People deliberately play with bad players, and it's like, oh yeah, that person spends some money but gets to have a fun time. Everyone's got to pretend they don't know that. You know, there's a fun like game that goes on with certain honesty principles, we could perhaps say. Also, I think we should, of all the things we've got to do now, I guess we've got to like tie these random leaves into this, or we can make a second little bushel. Let's do that actually. You know, this is going very well. We're getting closer and closer every single time we work on this to having a 100% full pit. Some would argue, why do you need an entirely waterlogged pit, Toy Cat? But again, you know, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to say I have the perfect justification figured out. I have like 2 or 3 reasons in my brain. And I think trying and just like seeing what happens is the best way to do that. I think, you know, one of the reasons I've always been doing internet jobs, I mentioned a while back, and people are always confused, like, wait, you've been working on the internet since you were 14, Toy Cat? Yeah, I used to own my own website, and the reason behind that is just I figured, like, you know, why don't I give this a try? Like, I'm always using these websites, why don't I see how you own one? And then I'm like, oh, there's a common script all of them use. I can buy that script for a pretty cheap amount of money. I had a guy install the script for me, and then I made like a test version. I was like, oh, I can run this test version. And, you know, the story was just like lots of, I figured I would try, and then I did. And then there were lots of setbacks, like, I tried to get some code done that would, you know, like, if you want to know these precise specifics, Every other website had their ads refresh every 24 hours. I wanted them to never refresh. Like, once you saw it once, you would never see it again. And like, to me, because that's what I wanted as like a customer. Like, I put the thing that I wanted as a customer for a website in as the, you know, the one of the things, like, as a way to make the site better. And so like, it took like years and it broke the site several times to get that to work. But anyway, the thing I'm trying to say with all of this little story is that I think trying things is important. I think in Minecraft, sometimes you have a dumb idea, you're not entirely sure where it's going, and you know, you can play around with that in creative if you want to. That's what some people choose to do. You can play around with the idea just in survival like I do. That's fine to do too. And you could even just make an entire thing and like see what happens as you go. I don't think that's recommended all the time. I think planning is very important, but sometimes you don't want to plan. Sometimes you just want to wing it, and sometimes when you do wing it, you come up with stuff like this. I'm going to shear the last of these leaves off here. Or maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should have the leaves like overgrow, and we can make like a little oasis, like if it's like yeah, maybe there's a fun idea to that too, actually. But for now, here's what we've got, in case you're curious. I'm going to sit on a tree or something. I guess stand on a tree. This is what we've got. It looks very weird from the top. Yeah, I think these will definitely have to extend to the top. Maybe these could hold up like the canopy that could be on top of everything else. See, and like, just having like weird, bizarre ideas, seeing if they work, and then if they don't, getting rid of them, I think is very important. Also very important, this is actually a little bit of a weird one, I'll admit. Oh no, we need to make another bucket. You know, I can make another bucket. Let's do it. But one of the weird things I've just noticed right now that we can fix and we can make better is when looking at the thing, we see like, oh yeah, for some reason, I genuinely cannot tell you why, these leaves right here don't have the water in them. Is that intentional? Is it meant to be a line going through them? So I can either put water in them and make them match the rest, or I can decide that's intentional, and what I can deliberately do is just, okay, go over here. Oh, I can't drain the water out into the water like you can with lava. So I guess instead we have to make a physical patch of water. Okay, so we throw the water in there, and then we decide, actually, yeah, I'll just drain this all the way to the end. Huh, so you can make a single block of water hold all the water, but not anything else. Anyway, so as you can see, we can make ourselves a little line, because maybe I like the line. Maybe I think that's cool. Maybe I think that's texture. Maybe I could have every other block be waterlogged, and then people think I was really impressive and I individually waterlogged all the blocks I didn't. You know, there's all the weird ideas that you can work with, and you've got lots of reasons to do so. But just remember, be honest. If not with other people, then at the very least with yourself. Because I think the reason certain people get really locked into their lies is because they're like, oh, I tell the truth, and therefore I need to prove that I am being honest when I am not. And proving that you're honest when you're not is an impossible task. And I feel sorry not only for the people who have to try and do that, because, you know, it's an impossible task. It's like, how about we make water but not wet? You know, here's a fun one for you. Is water wet? I don't even know. You can that instead of philosophy today, like some people think that we talk about on this channel, even though I'd argue that's not what we really do. Let's talk about, is water wet? Because wet is when something is covered in water. Arguably, it's, you know, saturated in water. Is water in water? I mean, like, if you think about water as a collective, you know, an ocean is not wet because the ocean contains all the water inside of itself. But, you know, is a little part of the water wet? You know, are fish wet? That's an even better question. I mean, like, they are, because they're surrounded by water. But, like, are they really? You know? Like, if you live your life in water, being dry is the weird one. Which is actually where this comes from. Like, you know, actually, it's not a very hard question to answer. Like, fish are wet, and they just don't think about it because they're wet all the time. In the same way, we live in a planet that's actually very warm compared to the dead of the universe. The universe is very cold and uncaring. And that's why you should make it just a little bit more caring and try and tell the truth. Sometimes telling the truth is hard. Sometimes you lose some subscribers, some views that you could have got, like, whatever your real life equivalent is. But I think honesty works more often than it doesn't. I always try to make the appeal to why you should be honest, not from a position of it's virtuous and it's good, but instead from the position of, like, you know, even from self-interest, I think you should probably care about honesty. Because you're not, who wants to keep track of lies, am I right? And more importantly, you know, who wants to be the person that no one trusts in their life? No one wants to be that, but you know what people do want to be? They want to be done with this Let's Play, which, guess what? For the first time, we did it in under 30 minutes, or just over 30 minutes. We got the Let's Play down to a length that people would actually watch on their YouTube homepage. Are you proud of me, internet? I hope you're proud of me. But yeah, I had a lot of fun this week. It feels so short, even though like half an hour is definitely a very long time to be playing Minecraft for. So let me know what you thought of the Let's Play. And if you did like it and let me know. Or don't, you know, that's your choice, isn't it? But what isn't your choice is deciding to subscribe if you're new around here to see more of these videos. And indeed, to see this video again in 5 years' time and go, wow, I remember watching that video. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Look at the way the character holds the shears. Like, the Totem of Undying is already held kind of weirdly, but the shears are just, like, I'm holding them by the tiniest little corner of the, you know, it doesn't make any sense. But Eva does this outro. Goodbye.